Hi, beautiful souls. It's Sadhana. Welcome to my channel. And today I'm here to have another look at the Mystic Fairy Tarot. You'll see that I have the border deck and the borderless deck sitting in front of you, and we are going to look at some of the differences between the two decks because there are a bunch of differences. My journey with this deck started because I was looking for the Victorian Fairy Tarot, which had caught my attention, and I do have the app for that. But I was not able to purchase the deck, and I was looking for another fairy deck. And so this one came to my attention. And when I was looking on Amazon, I learned that there was a bordered and borderless deck. And this was the icon that came up. And so this was the first one that I chose. And what came was the old version of the box. So I got the large box, the kit, with the old Llewellyn box with the tuck, tuck at the top. And so I got the bordered deck and the big book. And kind of to my regret, I sent that back because I was looking for the borderless deck because I assumed the borderless deck was more what I wanted. So I was reluctant to repurchase it because Amazon swore to me that that was the borderless deck. And so I ordered a couple different versions, and I ended up with this one, which is the cards only. And so this is the tiny one that comes in that kind of weird lift up box. I really wish Llewellyn would make a two-piece box for their cards only. And so here you get the little, with this one you get the little white book and the cards. And so I got the little white book and the deck, the cards with the border. And eventually, through persistence, I actually got a copy through Amazon with the borderless deck. And I decided to keep them both. This was a while ago, and I'm not going to tell you what's going on here or why I'm making this video yet. But we're going to have a look at the difference in the cardstock and the colors and just the kind of different feel and energy between the two decks. Just really practically, the decks are exactly the same size. However, the cardstock is different. I don't know if you can see. Maybe I'll turn it this way. So that is the border, the deck with borders, and then there's the deck that's a borderless deck. So you can see it's a little thicker. And the borderless deck, oh my goodness, it shuffles brilliantly. It's really smooth shuffle. They both riffle shuffle fine. Just a completely different feel. And if you love to riffle shuffle, you will love the deck with without the borders. If you like the gold colors, the gold colorations, then you probably like the deck with the borders because you lose that gold. And then the back is different as well too. So the back of this one is more yellow, beige, and the back of this one is more kind of goldy green. Okay, so some, basic stuff. We're not going to look at all the cards today. I've chosen a few cards from each of the minors, and we'll have a look at that, and we'll also do a reading today. I'm going to do the fairy circle reading. I haven't done that one before. In my last video about this deck, I did the Acorn to Oak, which is a really great reading. Just before I go on, both in the little white book that comes with the cards only and the large book, which I should have handy. Sorry, I'm zoomed in right now. You can't see the whole book. So this is a Barbara Moore book. So of course you're going to get lots of great stuff in this guidebook. You get the chapter that has all of the readings. So if you just want to buy the deck, you're not going to lose out. Sorry, not readings, spreads. Because there is a chapter on sample readings as well too in the large book. You're not going to lose out on any of the spreads if you just get the cards. So that's a really good feature. And the spreads are really, really good. So let's go and just have a look at some of the other practical stuff. You can see that the font is the same, but the little box around the font is different. So you've got more white space on this one. The font is the same size. And I want you to notice if you don't have this deck, so it's almost as if the fairies are inside stained glass window. So you've got a square border on the bottom, and then you've got a round arch at the top. And then there's some kind of Celtic knots, weaving, leafy things that go around. And then also on top of that, you have this gold border. In the borderless deck, here, if you look here, here's the tree branches that are right here. So I'm almost wondering if Barbara Moore, so if her paintings were cropped originally and then this border was created, or if when they created the borderless deck, they had to go back and expand the paintings, but I doubt that happened. I'm pretty sure that we lost a lot of the painting when the borders were created. But unless I talk to Barbara Moore directly, I will not have the answer to that question. So you do see a lot more of the foliage in this picture, and you see more of the bubbles and the details of the flowers. Of course, you can see the eyes a lot more carefully and the details on the wings and things like that. So if you like that kind of detail thing, you know, this is a really, really beautiful deck. The coloration on the borderless deck is, I think it's better done. It almost looks as if something, this deck is very yellowy green, and to me the colorization on that borderless deck is more pleasing to the eye. However, I am going to be going back to using this deck, and I will get to that reason after a little bit. So here we have the Fool, and I'm going to go through all the majors, and then we'll have a look at some of the minors, just so you can see the different feel and the, you know, the kind of different energy between the two decks. So we have the Magician. One of the things Barbara doesn't address in the guidebook is how in the world the Faerie has playing cards. And I guess if he is a magic fairy, he's able to manifest and create playing cards his own size. He also has playing cards that include all of the suits. So he is able to, you know, this shows his balance, and also that all of the suits are represented both in the playing cards as well as in the tools on his table. Can you see here too, the color is really different. This is gold. Like I said, I can't think of another word, but I find this coloration a lot more pleasing than this colorization. This is very, very yellow. And at the same time, it's a softer color. This is a brighter color. It almost looks like something went wrong when the deck with borders was produced. Like like a less sophisticated technology. And it didn't come out that long ago. You know, like it's not like a deck from the 90s. Excuse me. Yeah, I love the side glance of the Empress, the way she's looking at the wheat. Beautiful. I don't know if Scott McDonald, you ever will see one of my videos, but this Emperor reminds me of you, or at least what you used to look like when I knew you a long, long time ago. He was a dear, well, I guess he supposes he's a dear friend. He's a friend of mine. Much thicker cardstock on the borderless deck. Yeah. And then we have the Priest. Really interesting when you have the borderless deck that you can see more inside, things that are reflected in the bubbles and things like that, because it is larger. Oops, sorry. There's a few cards that I would say, this is one of them, that is going larger doesn't really make it any better. This is one of them. Such a beautiful Lover's card. Here we have the Chariot. So we have the two griffins being driven by the chariotress. Gorgeous strength card. One of the things with the larger decks, you get to see like the whites of the eyes, and it is really, really attractive. Love this guy, this hermit. He's so beautiful. And to tell you the truth, until I started, making these videos and looking at it, some of the details did not, like pop out to me, like his red buttons, for example. But, the energy that he has created, the fairy circle that has popped up, it's just beautiful. Love the moon behind his lantern. Wheel, fortune, beautiful justice card. This is actually a really good card to show you the difference between what you get in the large book and what you get in the small book. So I'm just going to share that with you. I'm not going to zoom out and zoom in because I just don't feel like adjusting right now, but I will let you have a look. Okay, so in the large book, you get a black and white picture. So this is very typical of the large Llewellyn books, all right? And it's super thick, okay? Really big, big guidebook. And then you get a bit of a story. So the Fae of Justice lives in a mistletoe bush. While she looks very demure and gentle, she represents an incredibly powerful magic that is tied deeply to the core of the universe. Her stone perch indicates her roots to the earth. I'm just going to move it so you can look at the picture. However, she sits on a cushion decorated with spirals, indicating the cycles of life. Life is lived by people. The power she wields is a direct result of our individual actions. A human name for her power is karma, the justice of the universe. This is the most perfect and poetic of all justice systems. She holds the scales that weigh our actions and the sword that delivers our reward, whatever it may be. She is blindfolded, so she cannot help or hurt us. She can only net out what we have earned. Out of all the Mystic Fairy cards, this one speaks most clearly and succinctly the fairy's main message for us humans. What you do today directly creates what you will experience tomorrow. It is a message that we have heard many times in many different ways. Our religious and spiritual systems express it. Our legal system attempts to impose it. And even our everyday sayings remind us of it. You've made your bed. Now you have to sleep in it. And then in the little white book, I will show you, I'll go to the page with justice. You don't get the background story. You get the part that's called meaning in the large book. So this bit here comes after what I just read you in the large book. The fairy wishes you to understand your power and your responsibility. If you're wondering why you're facing a situation, look to your past actions. If you can see how you brought yourself to this place, you can perhaps find a way to balance your karma. If you are facing a decision of how to behave in a situation, consider the future ramifications. Choose your actions wisely and carefully make a bed you will be happy to sleep in. I really like how this guidebook has been written. What I want to say, it's very much in alignment with how I read the RWS cards in general. Hanged Fae, totally prefer the color of the larger deck. Okay, so I'm going to tell you why I'm going to go back to the border deck. And this is a bit of a, can I say, an experiment. I have had the Borderless deck on my altar for a while. Yeah, like, look, you can see the lighting and everything here so much better. The details of the toadstools. It's just, yeah, really, really pretty color completely different. And the kind of answers to questions I have been getting are like fairies on drugs. And I'm not kidding. They are slapstick. They are silly. They are super cheeky and naughty. And they're never kind. And they are, it's like the fairies have been let out of the cage. I'm not kidding. Every time I pull a card, and this was for days and days in a row from this deck, it was like, you know, it was never a hug, always really not the kind of answer that I expected. I mean, look at this guy. You know, he kind of looks like he needs to go back into his cage, seriously. So my intention is to have the deck with borders on my altar for the next few weeks and see if the energy is more subtle. And part of me already kind of feels this, and I don't know, it's almost like the energy is too strong, and this might be a personal thing. I have always had a fascination for fairies. I used to have a babysitter for my kids that would take them out into the forest, and they'd come back and they'd tell me all these magical stories. And I have part of my altar is completely dedicated to the fairies, and I have a high respect for the elementals and their energy. So my daughter, who I was talking about, used to have this babysitter. Now she's in her 20s, and she makes these fairy doors, you know, from driftwood and things she finds in nature. And she just does this as part of her, just something that she does. She doesn't sell them. She makes them and she gives them to people. They're really beautiful. So we've always had, you know, we've had a respect for the fairies in our family and in our house, you know, regardless of where we live or what's going on. And I've lived near the forest, always been a gardener, respected the garden and things like that, and communicated with the elementals, you know, when I go out on my walks and so forth. So I don't know, it's just kind of crazy the answers to questions that I've been getting with this Borderless deck. And I don't understand why the fairies are behaving that way, because sometimes it almost feels hurtful, harmful, and it doesn't feel like, you know, wholesome energy. And I know the fae energy can be sometimes, you know, not, you know, what you want to hear. So this is a personal thing that I am going to work with, and I will get back and let you know when I have a more of a rambling video to catch up, you know, one of those catch-up videos. But for today, I just wanted to, show you the difference and share that with you. So in the pips, this is what they look like. So there is the Ace of Wands. Here's the Ace of Wands in the Borderless. So again, quite different colors. And I pulled the same cards for each suit. So the same numbers for each suit, so you can have a look. There's the twos. Actually, I prefer this one. But for the most part, the colors, I like in the Borderless. There's the Three of Wands. And if you're not familiar with this deck and you want to hear the stories, I have narrated the stories in entirety. So just click on one of the links below and you can hear these beautiful fae stories. And then there's the Knave. So the page is called, the page is the Knave in this deck. And then, I'm not doing these in a particular order. Here is the Pentacles. Here's the Pentacles. Of course, the sense of abundance here looks way more, abundant in the Borderless deck. Something happens here too, so you get a lot more of the purples and blues that come up, which doesn't really suit the energy of this suit. But we do have a lot of purple in this suit of Pentacles. Yeah, so there's the 3 and the sweet little Knave of Pentacles. In the stories, they are the ace through the 10s, so the pips are not included in those stories. There's the Ace of Cups. The Lotus looks way more pink on the left. This is a beautiful story. If you don't know this deck, the water nymph and the land fairy meet, and because of their cultures, they're not allowed to, interact, and I think they're banished from each other. And then at the end, they come back together. It's really lovely. There's the 3 water nymphs. And then there's the Knave of Cups. Super cute. All right, and then the swords look like this. Sorry, I had to pause there for a second. So just winding this up, we have the suit of swords. And you can see, again, quite a different color between the flowers. Here's the 2. This is another great story about the blue rose. And then the 3. For me, I get a completely different kind of, my imagination, my intuition goes in different places, because here it almost looks as if they're sitting in front of the moon, right? And here this could be, a sunny background. We don't know. So yeah, different feelings between the 2 decks. And here is the Knave. She's very, very playful. To me, she looks more like a Knave of Wands. That playful energy. So that's all the cards. These are all the cards I'm going to show you for this video. What I'm going to do is rearrange the cards, and we're going to do a reading. So I'm going to do the fairy ring spread from the deck. And I also realized, I just looked in the camera, that you didn't get to see my fairy door. So I'm going to show you this one, and I'll go grab another fairy door, and then we'll do the reading. Okay? Before we go on with the reading, here's a closer look at the fairy door that my lovely daughter created. And then I brought another one, and this one's in my Reiki room. This one sits with all the amethyst on the windowsill. So yeah, that's a fairy door. So we're lucky. We live somewhere where we can, pick up the shells and the driftwood and stuff. This one's really beautiful. I love the detail on the top, and she's got this little tiny shell up here. And then she's got something hanging over on the side here. A little cedar cone or hemlock cone. Yeah. So those are Michaela's creations. For the fairy ring spread, you need to separate the cards into 6 piles. The pips ace through 10 go into a pile. All of the court cards go into a pile, and all of the majors go into a pile. So I'm just going to set it up just so you can see the piles here. The major arcana is 1. 2 is the wands. At the top, 3 is the cups. 4 over on the right is the swords. And then 5 is the pentacles. I've got that wrong. Oh no, those are the quartz. The pentacles are number 5, and then number 6 is all of the court cards. So you create this fairy circle here, and what we're going to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle each of the piles, and then turn the cards over, and we're going to draw a card from the top, and we're going to draw a card from the bottom. Here's our little fairy ring that I have created. These are the borderless cards, so we'll see just kind of the energy of the reading that comes up. I'm just going to read this poem. Fairies clever, fairies bright, from garden, wood, and pond, guide my thoughts, guide my sight. Please help me find the answers on a path that is true and right. And I just did a smudge of this space as well too, so hopefully we'll get a nice clear reading. In the spread, so here we have the majors, and then wands, cups, swords, pentacles, and then the court cards. We are going to draw one card from the top. So the card from the top is greatest spiritual strength, most enterprising characteristic, your best emotional strength, strongest response to problems, your most admirable financial resource, and your favorite aspect of your personality. And then on the bottom, we draw cards, and those are going to present problematic and challenging things. So this is the spiritual characteristic. We have the Wheel of Fortune, Two of Wands, Ten of Cups, Seven of Swords. Some of these I will go to the guidebook because the meanings are so beautifully written and slightly different than something that you might come up with. And then the Knave of Cups. Okay, so these are meant to be positive attributes, and the cards that come from the bottom are more challenging attributes. So I am going to go with the more positive meanings here. Just generally speaking, with the positive attribute of the wheel is being in balance. It's about going with the flow and knowing that if we stick closer to the center of the wheel and don't let ourselves hang on the outside, then life is a little less frenetic. So the ability to move freely with change is an awesome characteristic. The positive aspect of this part of the fairy ring is your most enterprising characteristic. So here we're looking at the ability to work with others, to work in partnership. You don't always have to do it on your own, and sometimes those decisions are best made in partnership. Emotional strength, the Ten of Cups. So strength comes from, again, it comes from family. It comes with being with others. And that is, a really nice positive card to have for emotional strength. And then we have strongest response to a problem is Seven of Swords. So I don't remember this point in the story. Just let me go to Seven of Swords in the book. Just give me a second here. Even wise people make mistakes. There is much danger in acting in haste. Be careful of the allure of doing something, anything to change a situation. Your actions may indeed end the problem, but create an entirely different and perhaps worse problem. No matter how dire your situation, take the time to think before you act. Okay, so the idea of this position is your strongest response to problems. So this is not a positive card. This is saying that you don't take your time to think before you act. If we turn this around and we go with the positional meaning here, that this is actually a positive characteristic, then we can say that your strongest response to problems is you actually think before you act. I don't know how comfortable you are with doing that. Down here in the Pentacles, we're looking at your most admirable financial resource and ability, and we have the Nine of Pentacles, which really is about, manifesting and bringing in abundance. The Knave of Cups is about that innocence. So here is the favorite aspect of your personality. So for me, this would be about being able to go into any new situation and seeing it from a fresh perspective. This is really, so for the most part, all of these are easy to see the positive qualities because they're generally positive cards. Let's go back over here because this is really the only more negative card looking for a positive quality. So when we get a negative card and we are looking for a positive quality, we need to find the gold in that card. So what is the positive quality in acting quickly? Well, that means sometimes that you may be in a situation where somebody needs to make a decision really quickly and move forward. It may not be the best decision for the long term, but in the short term, it might get you through. So yeah, I'm not trying to make light of that card because it's not entirely positive, but it definitely is one that makes this kind of a reading more challenging. And then we go to the bottom and we choose a card. So we're going to kind of look at the challenges. Okay, so on top of the Wheel of Fortune, we have the Priest. On top of the 2, we have the 4. That's interesting. On top of the 10, we have the 3. Okay, on top of the 7, what do we have? We have the 4. That makes sense, right? Because if you're the kind of person that is always like rushing to make a decision, then it's really important sometimes that, if you're kind of one of those people that is go, 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 you kind of really need to make sure that if you don't schedule your times to give yourself space, that you're not going to recharge and recover, and that's really important. On top of the 9 of Pentacles, we have the 3 of Pentacles. So that, this is going to be interesting to look at these when you have positive cards to find the more negative. We have the King of Swords here. This one is easy for me because this is very much about the rational mind. So sometimes the rational mind gets in the way of the child who wants to see things from a fresh perspective. And so this will definitely be the more judgy aspect of personality. So that one's really easy to see. Let's just go to the questions for this reading. So back down here is the least favorite aspect of your personality. And so for me personally, this totally makes sense. Favorite aspect of personality, least favorite aspect. As far as the majors go, we're looking at the most important spiritual challenge at this time is the Priest. That's hilarious. For those of you that follow me on different social media, I'm doing a lot of courses, a lot of teaching right now. And for me, the most challenging thing is getting people to sign up for these courses and the marketing and figuring out whether I want to do this in person or do this online. And so that's really interesting because spiritually, this is my work spiritually. For the Wands, most problematic attitude towards your work. The accumulation of wealth. That's hilarious. Okay, don't need to say much more about that. For the Cups, your most difficult emotional challenge at this time. And we have 3 of Cups here. So when we work, in the circle of our friends, working with sisterhood, for me, this has been about a shift in who I tend to socialize with. And the people that I call my friends, my oldest friends, the circle of friends that are more well established, I have been choosing to not engage as much as I have in the past. And it's about recreating new circles who support this kind of work that I'm doing right now. So that also makes a lot of sense. On top of that challenging 7 of Swords, we have the 4 of Swords, which I already mentioned. So giving yourself space, space and time to recover. The Suit of Swords is really challenging. And all of us who are doing this work very much, we are, in this. And these moments, these spaces, whether they are just breaths, you arrive at a particular place, you turn off your ignition and you stop and you actually breathe in and you breathe out and then you move forward. These periods of kind of recovery don't have to be long, but they need to be there. Super, super important. The 3 of Pentacles. So that is going to be my financial weakness. That's really interesting because for me, working with others, I have been resisting this. And so perhaps if I were to take on a partner or to work more with others in growing my business, then things would flourish more easily. So yeah, so just giving you a quick kind of overview of this fairy ring reading. And of course you could do this with any deck, but the Fae energy kind of gives it a really lovely take. So I'm going to leave you with that for today, and in a future video I will come back and let you know if the bordered deck is giving me a different energy, or if that was just kind of my ego getting in the way and not wanting to hear all these direct messages that I had been receiving. I look forward to reading your comments below, and thank you to all of you who have already subscribed and are following me. I appreciate your support in this journey, and stay well. Enjoy your weekend. Namaste.